The crystalline dome of the Galactic Forum captured and refracted starlight into 1,000 dancing colors across the vast chamber. 3,000 species had gathered, their bodies as diverse as the worlds that birthed them. Some towering on gravity-defying limbs, others hovering in atmospheric bubbles, many rippling with bioluminescence that transmitted emotions beyond spoken language. Today, they had assembled for the ritual introduction of civilization number 3001. Whispers and electromagnetic communications flitted between delegates as the massive doors parted to reveal disappointment. The humans were small, bipedal mammals with unimpressive physical characteristics, no natural weapons, no extraordinary sensory organs, just 2 arms, 2 legs, 2 eyes, primitively limited to the visible spectrum, and skin as fragile as newly formed exoskeletons. Ambassador Elena Chen stood 5'6" in the center of the forum's presentation circle, the curved walls rising hundreds of meters above her. She showed no sign of intimidation as thousands of alien eyes, sensory stalks, and electromagnetic receptors scrutinized her. The delegation from Terra, designated Sol 3, announced High Chancellor Mrav, his gelatinous form rippling with barely concealed boredom. His 17 eye stalks swiveled independently, most focused on more important matters than this formality. Another oxygen-dependent species achieving rudimentary faster-than-light travel. The Council welcomes Earth to the galactic community. The perfunctory welcome triggered polite bioluminescent flashes and vibrational acknowledgments, the bare minimum diplomatic protocol required. Chen bowed slightly. On behalf of humanity, I thank the Galactic Forum for this opportunity. Her universal translator rendered her words in 67 languages simultaneously. We come eager to learn and contribute. The standard response from a standard newcomer. Senior delegates already began switching attention to more pressing matters. Then Chen deviated from protocol. Before presenting Earth's formal petition for membership, she said, moving toward the central data nexus without invitation, I'd like to better understand the forum's technology sharing protocols. Several species froze in what Chen recognized as surprise. Others exchanged quick glances. Specifically, she continued, interfacing her simple datapad with the forum's ancient systems, I noticed significant technological disparities between founding members and more recent additions. Our preliminary analysis suggests these disparities have persisted for thousands of years, despite ample opportunity for dissemination. The chamber fell unnaturally silent. Chen projected a simple chart showing technology distribution across membership tenures. According to the forum's founding charter, Section 12.7, knowledge critical to species advancement shall be shared equally among all recognized members. Yet we observe technologies, medical innovations, energy solutions, neural interfaces, concentrated among 27 senior species while systematically withheld from the rest. Exalari representative, his armored exoskeleton gleaming under the starlight, clicked his mandibles in clear dismissal. The primitive fails to understand the complexity of technology transfer. Certain advancements require suitable evolutionary development. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the senior delegates. Several junior species shifted uncomfortably but remained silent. Perhaps, Chen responded, her calm unbroken. Or perhaps the disparities I've identified correlate precisely with voting blocks that have maintained the same power structure for 4,000 years. The chamber erupted in dismissive clicking, hissing, and electromagnetic pulses that the translator rendered as laughter. As security escorts guided the humans to their assigned quarters, notably the smallest delegation space on the station's lowest level, Chen noticed an ancient Vor delegate watching her. Unlike the others, the reptilian being's compound eyes reflected not dismissal but intense interest. The humans had been recognized, cataloged, and dismissed in less than one standard cycle, just as anticipated. That evening, as the forum's delegates attended elaborate social functions, the human delegation remained in their quarters, meticulously analyzing every scrap of data they'd collected during their brief appearance. The work continued through the artificial night cycle, their assigned observer reporting only that the primitives appear to be nesting. No one bothered to ask why Ambassador Chen was smiling. 3 solar cycles after humanity's introduction to the Forum, a massive Xelari warship materialized at the edge of the station's defensive perimeter. Its chitinous hull, evolved from the same biological principles as its creators, bristled with weapon arrays that resembled nothing so much as the mandibles of ancient Earth scorpions. Curved, serrated, and unmistakably predatory. The Forum's traffic control transmitted standard identification protocols. The Xelari vessel responded by powering weapons. Within 30 minutes, the Forum's Grand Chamber had filled with agitated delegates. View screens across the chamber displayed the warship, its biomechanical hull pulsing with what appeared to be anticipation. Ambassador Chen arrived last, deliberately unhurried. She took her place at the human delegation's modest podium as the transmission began. Admiral Krzak's face filled every screen. 14 feet of armored exoskeleton, serrated mandibles clicking with barely restrained excitement. His compound eyes reflected the light from a dozen information displays, giving the impression of stars burning within his gaze. The Xelari Empire, he announced without preamble, has determined that humanity's expansion threatens established territories and resource pathways. His mandibles clicked in what the translator rendered as amusement, though the sound more closely resembled metal shearing. Humans will surrender their colony worlds, all 7 of them, to Xelari oversight within 15 standard cycles, or face immediate extinction. The Forum erupted. Junior species looked to their seniors with increasing alarm. The Xelari had done this before, tested newcomers, culled those found wanting, absorbed their resources. Each time, the Forum had stood aside. Chancellor Mra formed his gelatinous body into the formal shape of procedural concern. The Forum recognizes the Xelari Empire's statement and will convene the Security Council immediately. Chen watched the carefully choreographed performance unfold. Within 2 hours, the Security Council, composed entirely of senior species, had cited 16 precedents and 23 procedural guidelines to reach their predetermined conclusion. The Forum regrets it cannot intervene in bilateral affairs between sovereign entities. Chancellor Mrav announced, his eye stalks deliberately avoiding Chen's gaze. We encourage peaceful resolution through mutual concessions. Translation: surrender or die. The Xelari delegation's chitinous limbs rattled against the chamber floor in what passed for applause. The human delegation requests 30 Earth Standard days to consult with our government, Chen stated, her voice neutral. Admiral Krzak's mandibles clicked rapidly. 20 days. The Xelari Empire is generous. The word generated ripples of unease among junior species who had experienced Xelari generosity firsthand. Accepted, Chen replied simply. As the human delegation prepared their shuttle for departure, Chen felt a presence behind her. Admiral Krzak loomed, his exoskeleton casting her in shadow. Your species has developed impressively, he said, mandibles working thoughtfully. But you are not ready for the realities of galactic politics. The strong consume. The weak are consumed. This is the way of all things. Chen looked up at him, her expression revealing nothing. We came seeking friends, she said softly, but we are prepared to leave having made an impression. The translation matrix faltered, rendering her words into the Xelari equivalent of, we sought alliance but will accept obscurity. Krzak chittered in amusement and turned away, his armored back a dismissal. Only the ancient Vor delegate, lingering at the edge of the docking bay, understood raw English. Only he caught the double meaning in Chen's words. Only he noticed how the supposedly primitive humans had subtly modified their shuttle during their brief stay, changes that made no sense unless. The Vor's ancestral memories stirred uneasily as the human shuttle departed. His species had once been apex predators themselves. Long ago, they recognized the quiet focus of a hunter among hunters. As the Forum delegates dispersed, discussing the humans' inevitable capitulation, the Vor representative transmitted a private message to his homeworld. Watch them carefully. They are not what they appear. 28 days after the ultimatum, the forum's emergency alert system activated for the first time in 73 years. Delegates hurried to the Grand Chamber, rumors spreading faster than their shuffling appendages could carry them. The massive view screens displayed the same image on continuous loop. 5 Solari dreadnoughts, planet killers, each capable of reducing a continental mass to slag, approaching the human colony Demeter. The timestamp showed this had occurred 6 hours earlier. Chancellor Mrav's eye stalks quivered with unconcealed excitement. The Solari were predictable in their aggression. This would serve as an excellent reminder to other newcomers about the realities of galactic hierarchy. "We are receiving an updated transmission from the Solari fleet," announced the communications officer, a tentacled Heveran, whose chromatophores flashed in patterns indicating distress. The chamber fell silent as the screen shifted. The new footage showed the same 5 dreadnoughts. 3 small vessels appeared at the edge of the sensor range, human ships, barely 1/20th the size of the Solari behemoths. The Solari weapons platforms oriented toward the approaching vessels. Then the recording showed something impossible. The human ships pulsed with a strange, rippling energy that defied spectral analysis. Space itself seemed to fold around the Solari ships. A brief energy spike registered across multiple bands. And then, nothing. The Solari dreadnoughts were gone. No debris. No radiation signature. No distress beacon. 5 ships carrying over 20,000 Solari warriors had simply ceased to exist. The chamber erupted in chaos. "The recording must be falsified," insisted the Solari ambassador, his mandibles clacking so violently that 3 translator units shorted out. "The data stream came through 7 independent relay points," replied the Heveran communications officer. "Verification protocols confirm authenticity at 99.998%. Before the argument could intensify, the chamber doors parted. Ambassador Chen walked calmly to the human delegation's podium, her steps unhurried, her gaze sweeping the assembled representatives. No one spoke. No one moved. The Solari Empire made their choice, Chen said, her voice carrying easily through the silence. "Humanity has made ours." She interfaced her datapad with the forum systems. The screen shifted again, no longer showing the vanished fleet, but instead displaying meticulously organized data. "While being evaluated for forum membership, humanity conducted our own evaluation," Chen continued. "We identified 47 documented violations of the forum's founding principles by senior member species." The screens flashed with evidence: secret military installations, restricted technologies, suppressed species, manufactured conflicts, resource monopolies. Each violation tagged with dates, coordinates, and responsible parties. "We have already transmitted this data to every citizen of every member world," Chen announced as counselors lunged from their seats in panic. "The truth flourishes in light." The Solari ambassador charged toward Chen, mandibles spread wide in killing position. Before security could intervene, he froze in mid-stride, held by an invisible force that hadn't existed according to galactic science. "We would prefer peaceful relations," Chen said, seemingly unaware of the suspended Solari looming over her, "but we have prepared for alternatives." She released the Solari with a subtle gesture. He collapsed, his exoskeleton clicking against the floor in a sound eerily similar to his species' laughter. In the profound silence that followed, a junior species representative, from a civilization that had suffered Solari protection for centuries, stood from her seat. Then another, and another. Within moments, over 200 delegates representing the forum's traditionally powerless members had risen in wordless acknowledgement. The ancient Vor delegate, observing from his elevated position, felt something he hadn't experienced in millennia: hope. By the following cycle, the human embassy had transformed from the forum's most ignored delegation to its epicenter. The previously empty corridor leading to their modest quarters now teemed with representatives from 87 species, forming lines that wrapped through 3 levels of the station. Most had never received audience with senior delegations. Many had spent centuries being told their biology, psychology, or evolutionary path made them unsuitable for advanced technology transfers. All had watched the Xelari fleet vanish. Inside the embassy, the human delegation had expanded their space by removing internal walls, a modification technically forbidden without council approval. No one dared object. Ambassador Chen sat across from a Tellurian representative, an entity composed of crystalline structures that communicated through light pulses and resonant frequencies. Your atmospheric processors have been operating at 63% efficiency for 3 centuries, Chen said, sliding a data crystal across the table. This contains modified algorithms based on your own original designs, before the approved upgrades were mandated by the Technology Transfer Committee. The Tellurian's crystalline structure vibrated in what the translator rendered as disbelief. These were our ancestral designs. We were told they were fundamentally flawed. They were brilliant, Chen corrected. They just didn't create the resource dependencies that certain committee members found profitable. Similar scenes played out across the embassy. Humans sharing technological insights, correcting deliberate sabotage disguised as assistance, teaching methods rather than merely providing solutions. In the council chamber, emergency sessions devolved into accusation and counter-accusation. The Xelari demanded military action against Earth. The Moravians insisted on information quarantine. The Direxians suggested neutralizing the human delegation for security purposes. Chancellor Mrav finally achieved tenuous consensus. A joint security team would shut down the human embassy immediately, citing 17 regulations regarding unauthorized technology transfers. The security team reached the embassy corridor only to find their communications devices failing, their authorization keys rejected by doors, their weapons powering down. Ambassador Chen's voice echoed through their suddenly useless headsets. Perhaps we should discuss this in the Grand Chamber. 10 minutes later, the security team returned to the chamber in humiliation, escorted by 2 unarmed humans. The council fell silent as Chen stepped to the central podium, a space traditionally reserved for senior members. No one challenged her. "You've operated under a fundamental misconception," Chen said, her voice carrying easily through the vast space. "You assumed humanity's strength was military. It is not." She activated a holographic display encompassing the entire chamber. It showed the forum station from outside, and hundreds of previously cloaked warships surrounding it. Ships belonging to every major species, positioned in direct violation of the forum's most sacred covenant. "We are information specialists," Chen continued calmly. "In 3 months, we've analyzed your networks, your systems, your secrets. We found ships that officially don't exist, monitoring species supposedly under protection. We found communications proving coordination between allegedly rival powers." A Moravian counselor surged forward. "You've violated sovereign systems. This is an act of journalism," Chen interrupted. "Your own laws, Section 34.6, require immediate public disclosure of evidence regarding violations of the non-aggression covenant. We're merely complying." The chamber erupted as junior delegates finally saw confirmation of suspicions they'd harbored for generations. The elaborate dance of galactic politics, the performance of principled disagreement between major powers, revealed as theater concealing coordinated oppression. In the midst of the chaos, the ancient Vor delegate approached Chen. "You knew exactly what you would find," he said in flawless English. Chen smiled slightly. "We suspected. Our history taught us that power without accountability rarely remains benevolent." "And now?" the Vor asked. Chen's eyes swept across the chamber where millennia of carefully constructed hierarchy were collapsing in real time. "Now we rebuild," she said quietly. "Together." The Grand Assembly Hall had never hosted species from the lower tiers without senior supervision. Its soaring architecture, designed to accommodate the most massive forum members, had traditionally emphasized the smallness of junior delegates. Today, that same space teemed with representatives from 37 formerly marginalized civilizations, its grandeur now serving a different purpose: possibility. Ambassador Chen moved through the gathered delegates not as a leader, but as a facilitator. Where disputes arose between species with ancient grievances, she listened more than she spoke. Where technological questions emerged, she connected experts rather than imposing solutions. Your atmospheric adaptation systems could work with the Jelani water filtration principles, she suggested to an amphibious Norak scientist. Your civilizations evolved on opposite ends of the galaxy, but the biochemical challenges you solved separately could work brilliantly together. Across the hall, human scientists demonstrated not advanced technology, but advanced methodology. The scientific process itself, unencumbered by the artificial restrictions that had been embedded in educational systems provided by senior species. Question everything. A human physicist told a group of Tellurian engineers, especially the principles presented as unchangeable. The laws of physics are universal, but our understanding of them should constantly evolve. Outside the assembly hall, the wider forum descended into unprecedented chaos. The Xelari had withdrawn their delegation entirely, their ships gathering at the edge of their territory. The Moravian Chancellor had been recalled after internal communications revealed centuries of deliberate technology suppression. Ancient alliances fractured as senior species turned on each other, each blaming the others for the humans' intelligence coup. Inside the Grand Assembly Hall, something else entirely was happening. The Coalition of the Forgotten, a name suggested by a Norak poet, was coalescing not around grievance but potential. My ancestors developed a stellar stabilization technique, announced a Cathari representative whose species had been deemed intellectually limited for 8 centuries. We were told it was worthless, but with the computational methods the humans shared. A murmur swept the hall as technical data appeared on shared displays. 3 other species immediately recognized applications for their own dying star systems. In a corner of the hall, a human medical team worked alongside healers from 12 worlds, combining approaches to diseases long declared untreatable by forum medical authorities. On a massive central table, environmental engineers from desert and ice worlds discovered their complementary approaches to resource scarcity. The humans had brought no miracle technology. They had merely removed the barriers between those who had been kept separate. As the coalition's 3rd day began, the chamber doors opened to admit an unexpected delegation. The Vor, silent observers for 1,000 years, ancient even by forum standards, entered in ceremonial formation. The hall fell silent as their grand orator approached the central podium. "We have watched," the orator began, their multifaceted voice resonating through the hall, "for longer than many of your species have known starlight. We watched the forum's founding principles wither as power consolidated. We watched in silence, believing intervention would cause greater harm." The ancient being's compound eyes swept the hall. We were wrong. The admission sent shockwaves through the assembly. Humanity has accomplished in one cycle what this body was founded to do millennia ago, before we sacrificed principle for power. The Vor delegation moved to join the coalition, their technical knowledge, hoarded for eons, freely offered. Outside the hall, a communication arrived from Earth. 5 more human diplomatic vessels were inbound, each carrying specialists requested by coalition members. Ambassador Chen smiled as she read the message. Phase 1 had succeeded beyond all projections. The galaxy was awakening not to fear humanity, but to fear what they had accepted before humanity arrived. The real work was just beginning. At precisely 3:17 Galactic Standard Time, antimatter explosions blossomed across 3 sectors of space. 12 human outposts, research stations, mineral processing facilities, and agricultural colonies erupted in simultaneous destruction visible from light years away. In a secure chamber 14 levels beneath the forum's public areas, representatives from 6 founding species watched the feeds with grim satisfaction. Their cabal had existed since the forum's creation, ensuring dominance through carefully managed technological superiority and political manipulation. "It is done," the Moravian Archon said, his gelatinous form rippling with what passed for satisfaction. The human's expansionist phase ends before it truly begins. The Salari war prince clicked his mandibles in agreement. Our forces report complete destruction. No survivors. The Tellurian Elder's crystalline structure pulsed with cautious light patterns. Confirmation protocols. Unnecessary. The Diraxian matriarch rumbled. Our intelligence was perfect. The humans never suspected. All communication systems went dead simultaneously. The room's supposedly impenetrable doors slid open, revealing two human figures in unadorned gray uniforms. "Your intelligence," said one, "was exactly what we wanted it to be." The cable members reached for emergency beacons, neural links, and concealed weapons, all useless. On screens that shouldn't have functioned without their secure network, footage appeared. The supposedly destroyed outposts, completely intact. The devastating explosions have been nothing but elaborate holographic projections. While you were focused on our decoys, the human continued. "We've been inside your most secure systems for weeks." Across the galaxy, carefully coordinated human strike teams materialized within command centers, weapons platforms, and secret research facilities belonging to the cable members. Using transportation technology thought impossible. Direct point-to-point matter transfer across interstellar distances, they bypassed every defense system. What followed shocked a galaxy that thought it understood warfare. Human soldiers fought with techniques evolved from centuries of fighting other humans, asymmetric, adaptive, and utterly alien to species whose military doctrine relied on overwhelming force and rigid hierarchy. They targeted communication nodes rather than population centers, command structures rather than industrial capacity. Their objective wasn't annihilation but surgical paralysis. Most terrifying to their opponents, humans accepted casualties. While other species had evolved elaborate protocols to minimize losses, humans pushed forward through their own dead with grim determination. A captured Celari commander transmitted his final report before being disconnected. "They're insane. They sacrifice individuals willingly. They have no self-preservation instinct at the unit level. They function as if their entire species is a single organism." On the forum station, bewildered delegates received reports of conflicts unlike any in recorded history. Wars typically lasted months or years in galactic terms. This one, the first interspecies conflict in 500 years, ended in 9 days. In the Grand Assembly Hall, the Coalition watched in stunned silence as the last senior species fleet surrendered unconditionally. Their technologies, developed over millennia, had proven ineffective against human unpredictability and willingness to absorb losses that would have been psychologically devastating to any other species. "I don't understand," a Norak representative said to Chen. "You could have defeated them at any time. Why wait until they attacked?" Chen's expression remained composed, but something ancient and fierce flickered in her eyes. "Because we needed the galaxy to see clearly who they were, and what we are." The Vor Grand Orator, standing nearby, nodded slowly. "You needed them to fire the first shot, to show their true nature. And yours," the Norek realized, watching footage of human medics treating injured enemy soldiers with the same care as their own. The galaxy finally understood why humans had dominated their deadly homeworld. They were predators who had evolved beyond predation, without losing their capacity for it when threatened. The forum's grand chamber had never been so silent. 3,000 delegates from across the galaxy watched the historical footage playing on the massive view screens, their various physiologies registering shock, confusion, and dawning comprehension. The images showed humans across centuries, building magnificent cities, then reducing them to rubble and war, developing medicines to save billions, then crafting pathogens that could extinguish all life, sacrificing themselves to save strangers, then turning against their own kind in genocide. The documentary had been running for 6 hours. No one had left. Ambassador Chen stood beneath these records of humanity's darkest moments and brightest triumphs, her expression calm but her eyes reflecting the weight of the species' complex legacy. "You see contradiction," she said when the final footage, Earth's first interstellar vessel launching, faded to black. You see insanity. What possible evolutionary advantage could come from a species so capable of both creation and destruction? She gestured to the screens, which now displayed a geological and astronomical analysis of Earth. We evolved on what you would classify as a death world, Chen continued. Background radiation levels that would damage most sentient DNA, geological instability that reshaped continents without warning, climate fluctuations that forced constant adaptation, predatory competition that never allowed for evolutionary complacency. The analysis shifted to show comparative data between Earth and the homeworlds of senior species, all remarkably stable environments with predictable challenges. We fight ferociously, she explained, because we had to. We value peace so profoundly because we understand its opposite intimately. We comprehend darkness because we've spent our history climbing toward light. In the delegates' gallery, the VOR representatives exchanged meaningful glances. The medical data they had been quietly studying for weeks confirmed their suspicion. Humans had evolved with neurochemical responses to stress that most species would consider pathological. Their capacity to function under conditions that would trigger complete psychological collapse in others wasn't technology. It was biology shaped by an unforgiving world. Our greatest strength isn't our weapons or our science, Chen said, her voice softening. It's that we nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times and chose not to. The screens showed peace treaties signed after devastating wars, environmental restoration projects, species rescued from extinction. We developed the capacity for self-annihilation. She continued, then developed the wisdom to reject it. We know what we're capable of, both magnificent and monstrous. This knowledge shapes every decision we make among the stars. In seats reserved for the defeated cable species, representatives watched with mixtures of fear and confusion. They had expected execution, enslavement, or at minimum severe reparations. Instead, the peace terms being proposed involved verification protocols, technology exchanges, and gradual integration into the new coalition. "You're not punishing us," said the Moravian delegate, bewilderment evident in the pulsing of his eye stalks. "Punishment without purpose is merely vengeance," Chen replied. "We've had enough of cycles that perpetuate harm." The Hilari representative's mandibles clicked in agitation. "We would not show such restraint." "We know," Chen said simply. "That's the difference you fail to understand." As the session concluded, species that had been enemies for millennia found themselves seated together, confronting the possibility that everything they thought they knew about power, evolution, and survival might be wrong. The VOR Grand Orator approached Chen privately. "Your species is what we were, long ago, before comfort made us forget." Chen smiled slightly. Perhaps that's humanity's role here, to remember what others have forgotten, and to help forge something better than what any of us could create alone. Across the galaxy, beings that had days before shuddered at humanity's military prowess now contemplated something far more revolutionary: mercy from a predator who had chosen to evolve beyond predation. One standard year after humanity's introduction to the Forum, the chamber where they were once mocked was unrecognizable. The hierarchical seating arrangement that had physically embodied power disparities for millennia had been replaced by a circular configuration. Species that once loomed over others now sat as equals with those they had dismissed. Light filtered through the crystalline dome, creating not the intimidating shadows of the old design, but a kaleidoscope of colors that mingled and merged, an unintentional but perfect metaphor for what the Forum had become. Ambassador Chen moved through the pre-session gathering, exchanging greetings with representatives who no longer flinched at human presence. Her mission was nearly complete. She would return to Earth after today's session, leaving behind a transition team to continue humanity's integration with galactic society. The Tellurian Norak atmospheric processor has exceeded all projections, reported a coalition scientist, her tentacles gesturing excitedly at floating data displays. 3 formerly uninhabitable moons are now supporting preliminary ecosystems. Similar conversations echoed throughout the chamber. Technology flowed freely through networks maintained by mixed-species programming teams. The former underclass species advanced with remarkable speed, contributing innovations that reflected their unique evolutionary perspectives, approaches that would never have emerged under the old regime of enforced technological stagnation. When the session was called to order, it was by the newly elected Forum Chancellor, a previously ignored avian species whose natural ability to perceive quantum fluctuations had been dismissed as primitive sensitivity rather than the scientific advantage it truly was. Before we addressed the agenda, the Chancellor announced, her feathers shifting to formal presentation colors. Our long-range sensors have detected an approaching anomaly. The central display showed data from the Forum's outer observation posts. Silicon-based entities of enormous size traversing the intergalactic void, consuming stellar energy at unsustainable rates. Their trajectory would bring them to the galaxy's edge within 5 years. In the old Forum, such news would have triggered secret preparations by senior species, dooming hundreds of expendable worlds on the galaxy's rim. Today, it prompted something unprecedented. Unified response planning with input from all technological traditions. The Solari energy transfer systems offered their representative, mandibles moving with newfound purpose, coupled with Vor temporal manipulation and human tactical adaptability. The planning session continued for hours, combining approaches no single species could have conceived. Research teams formed spontaneously, integrating disparate biological perspectives into solutions that would have been impossible a year before. As the session concluded, the newly elected Chancellor approached Chen with a ceremonial object, the seal of the Founders, remade to include Earth's double helix alongside the original sigils. You feared us when we left the Forum that first day, Chen addressed the assembly, accepting the seal. That fear was both right and wrong. The chamber listened in perfect silence. You were right to sense something dangerous in humanity, she continued. We are dangerous. To stagnation, to oppression, to the notion that power must always corrupt. You were wrong to think our danger threatened your existence. We're not conquerors. We're survivors who learned that true survival requires cooperation. She raised the seal, light catching its newly forged elements. We made our mistakes among the stars we were born to, so you wouldn't repeat them among the stars we all share. As Chen's shuttle departed the station hours later, observation decks filled with representatives watching her departure. On thousands of worlds across the galaxy, beings that had once shuddered at humanity's exit from that first Forum session now watched Earth's continuing innovations with something new. Partnership built on mutual respect. Chen's final view of the station showed the recently completed addition, a simple earth tree planted in the central garden, its branches already supporting nests from avian species, its roots intertwining with alien flora. Different life, finding ways to flourish together. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy looked to the future with genuine hope, and just the right amount of healthy fear.